Pillars of Eternity was the spiritual successor of Baldur's Gate we always prayed for, and it successfully revitalized the classic RPG subgenre. Obsidian didn't stop there, and they're making another RPG game just like that. They could have easily gone for a reskin and quickly patch up a Pillars clone, but that's mostly not the case with Tyranny, their newest title currently in development.
You can institute the law from above, or use the banner to institute your own.
The first thing that will clearly capture attention is the setup. The events of the game unfold in Tyers, a fantasy land in which evil has already won. Even the protagonist isn't such a nice guy, as we will play as an officer of the army that has conquered the land, and as the developers assure us, he's as bad as they get. We'll be able to influence our scoundrel a bit, but it won't make him a better person. Just like in Pillars, we will be able to create an avatar in the beginning and acquire new party members as the events unfold. Usually, the idea of playing as the quote-unquote bad guy is quite comical, like in, for example, the Overlord franchise. The story in Tyranny is quite grim and depressing, and unlike in a BioWare game, we won't be a renegade scumbag who just so happens to save the galaxy. The main character in Tyranny will be bad. In the demo we got to play, a rebel stronghold was under attack. The Resistance, among many other factions, will be an optional ally or an enemy. The siege involved other groups as well. Depending on our allegiance, the outcome of the battle would have been different. In our playthrough, we were tasked with eliminating a group of mages that were casting a barrier which supported the stronghold's walls. Soon after we began, a fight with the rebel soldiers broke out, and it looked much like in Pillars, with the active pause system and real-time combat. There was an option to set the tactics for our teammates beforehand, but as always, it was much better to adjust on the fly. Similarities to Pillars don't end there, as the game will offer offensive, defenses, and buffing skills, with some of them affecting individuals and some with aerial effects. What caught our attention was the inclusion of group skills, specific skills that party members use in sync with their protagonist. One of them involved downing an opponent, which was next finished off by the hero. The sequence of group skills will depend on what skills we have chosen for the party, and while it might not seem as something revolutionary, it's a welcome addition to combat. Comparing Tyranny to Pillars, one would also have to point out the much more readable interface, with an addition of contextual text quests. Meaning, if we have a certain skill or an ability, a new dialogue option will be unlocked. And speaking of skills and development, our character is classless, meaning that we don't have a certain build path, but along with the use of certain attributes, we'll get new skills and spells. There's also talk of custom spell creation, but how it would work remains to be seen. Tyranny won't be that long by RPG standards, with an estimated playthrough of around 25 hours, but different paths and consequences highly encourage multiple playthroughs. Even in our small demo we had to make some important decisions that would have otherwise played out later on in the game. Although other games such as the aforementioned Pillars offer such a thing, in Tyranny it'll be much less linear, with various grim outcomes of our decisions. The game's aesthetics seem to go hand in hand with that as well, as the spells are the only bright sides in the game. Everything is faded and devoid of color, giving it a feeling of anything but a fairy tale. Which also makes sense on the story level, as the world has been conquered by the forces of evil. From 8 locations in the game, the ones we have seen look much like those from a post-apocalyptic game rather than a fantasy RPG. The graphics might not be overall jaw-dropping, that's sure, but the visual style is something that many of you will certainly enjoy. Tyranny is something of an appetizer before we get the next Pillars game, and will certainly be a worthy addition to Obsidian's already rich portfolio. Despite being much like their previous games, the small changes and the interesting concepts might help Tyranny make a name for itself. While we didn't squeeze the data out of the developers, and believe me, we tried, you can accept Tyranny to release sometime later this year. As always, I'm Jordan, thanks for watching and stay tuned to GamePressure.